the real state value. So this is the estimated state and this is the real state. The both will be the same if and only if you use L properly. What is the proper way to select A minus LC with all eigenvalues negative? So this is how we design an observer, and this type of observer design is called Leuenberger observer. You see this. I have taken this from the Ogata. The Ogata is a very famous book we use in control systems. Ogata is the author. The name is Modern Control Engineering. Okay, so if you have any doubts in this algorithm, please tell me. Next, we will proceed with one example, one numerical example, and try to solve it. Okay. So if you don't have any doubts, let's go to the example. So the example says estimate states for this system. What is the system says? X dot is equal to A times X plus B times U, Y is equal to C times X. So if you see what we have as in, if you think the system is some real life system, we don't have access to the X. What we can measure is Y, and obviously we are giving U, so we know what are the values of U. So if you see, the X is just the second one. The first one is not there, so we don't know what is this. And let us try to observe what is the other X. So if you say X is X1, X2, we have access to the X2. The X1 is not available to us. So let us use the technology. Let's use the algorithm we have discussed. So what is the first step? If you go identify all the parameters, we know, let us assume that we have access to A, B and C. A, B, C, in this case D is 0, so we have A, B, C. And then what is the second step says? We have to select L such that A minus LC has all its eigenvalues negative. So what we do here, L is equal to, we define it is A, B. So when we use these two dots, means in mathematics we are defining this. It is not available before. If you see L is equal to 2 dots, so we say that we are defining here, so no need to look for this in somewhere else. So we are defining L is equal to AB, and then we have to see what are the eigenvalues for this one. So how do we calculate? A is A minus LC. So we already know the A is this matrix, minus L is this one, and C is this matrix. So if we do this, these are the matrix operations if we can do, and this is the result. This is A minus LC matrix. So what we have to do, we have to find eigenvalues. So what is the procedure for finding eigenvalues? So again, I'm saying, let us say W is A minus LC. If it is A minus LC is W. So the procedure for finding eigenvalues is use this sigma I minus W determinant. These lines represent the determinant. So we do this and we get this. If we solve this determinant and say is equal to 0, the values of sigma will give us the eigenvalues. So if you see this equation looks like the quadratic equation, right? Like alpha x square plus beta x plus gamma. We know in a quadratic equation, sum of the roots is minus beta by alpha, and the product of the roots is gamma by alpha. So if we see, if sigma 1, sigma 2 are the roots of this, we know sigma 1 plus sigma 2 is minus b, because the coefficient is 1, so it is minus b. And the multiplication of sigma 1, sigma 2 is this part. This part is a minus 20.6. So why I'm using this is, here I want to show one technique what most control systems people use is, instead of solving the equation, we can solve this equation. It is simple equation we can solve and we can find out what is sigma 1 sigma 2. But instead of solving, we use some other techniques to get some information, and we don't have to solve the equation all the time. How is it important? Because even the order of the system increases to very big number, in that case we always won't have the computational power or enough mathematical knowledge, or we don't have the techniques to solve the equation all the time. So what we do is we use some kind of techniques to get the information as much as possible. In this case, we can solve it, but I'm showing an example. If we can't solve, what we can do, we can get the information like the sum of the roots is this one, the product is this. So from seeing this equation, I can say the sum of the roots is b minus b, and the product of the roots is a minus 20.6. So with this information, what I can say, if both sigma 1 and sigma 2 should be negative, so what I should have, if both are negative, I should have the minus b negative, because sum of two negative numbers is a negative number. So minus b should be negative, right? So what we have is minus b should be negative. What is the other thing? Sigma 1, sigma 2 is this one. If you multiply two negative numbers, the answer is a positive number. So multiplication of sigma 1, sigma 2 is this number, and it should be positive. So what I'm saying, a minus 20.6 should be positive. So what we have is b should be greater than 0 and a should be greater than 20.6. So for this, if we take b greater than 0 and a greater than 20.6, we can assure that the L is a correct value, sufficient value to identify to observe this system. What is observing means? Observing means we can find the values of x1 and x2. So let us implement this on UMARK and let us see how we get the result. Okay. Okay. If we see, this is the system, right? So I did a small change in the system. For example, if you see here, A, B, C, D values, A, B, I'm keeping the same. If this is a system, A and B are the same. In the C, if we see, we are having 0, 1, which means we are having access to only the second x2. We have access only to the x2. The x1 is not available. But to compare with the results we are receiving, so what I did is I took both as I'm taking both. So how do I get? C is C1, C2. The C is exactly like what we have, and the C1 is 1, 0. What does 1, 0 means? We take only x1. So the output we have x2, x1. So this one is the actual output, and this one is the other state we want to see our result is correct or wrong. And how we are implementing this? The observer. How are we implementing the observer? We are implementing observer using this, the third step, the final step, using this formula, right? So x cap is here. This is the x cap. This is x cap. So this is x cap. So if this is x cap, this is going to be x cap dot. Okay. So if this is x cap, this is x cap dot. And what is x cap dot? It is sum of three terms, 1, 2, and 3. So what is the first term? A times the same estimated value. So this is the term is A times this. The second one is B times the input. So B times the input. We are giving same input here and here. And the last one is L times Y minus Y cap. So this is L and we are measuring Y. This is the output we are receiving. And this is the output from this Y minus Y cap. So how do we get Y here? The Y cap by C times X cap. This is C times X cap. Here we don't have term D. D is 0. So we are just doing this term and we are getting this is the Y cap. This is the Y cap. So we see, okay. So we can see this is the output where we can see, let us see what is the observed value and what is the real value. This is just the Y cap. Oh, this is the error. No, I want to see the both of them here, this one, X and X cap. Let us see. So if we see both are coinciding one on top of other, if you see both are the same, so we are observing very accurately. This is for one state. What is the other state? Here is the other state. If we run, we can see. Let us see what is. Okay. Here also we can see both are the same. So we are observing perfectly. The graphs are very perfect because we are not adding any noise and we are saying the ABCD values we know and those are very accurate. So the observer is working very good. Yeah, if you have any doubts, please ask me in the implementation of this observer, please. Let me show what are the values I'm using for the L. L I'm using 50 and 20. I'm using little big value, so it should be stable. So what are the values we can take? We can have 20.6 and anything greater than 0. So what I'm taking is 50 and 20. So it should be fine. If you have any doubts, please ask me. I'm getting doubt. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, Krish.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, please tell me if you have any doubts. Okay, it seems no doubts in observer. Is it clear what is the concept of observer? Why we need observer, or what does an observer do in actuality? So I'll tell again so that you can all understand again. What I'm saying is if we have a system like this in the real life, what we can see is just Y and U. We don't have any information inside. We don't know what's happening inside the system. For example, if we see like if you have an electric circuit, you have a lot of components connected, a lot of things going on there. So let us say you have a voltage measurement device. You can measure the input voltage you are giving, and you can measure voltage across some of across one component. Let us say some circuit. Let us say if we have a RLC circuit, we can measure the voltage across only the capacitor. let us say. So, but you want to measure what is the current in the loop. So how can you measure current in the loop if you can measure just the voltages? So if you know all this, if you can write the system in this form, the state space, and if you perform all the steps we are doing, then we can make sure that you can measure all the states. All the states means if you write the differential equations, in a differential equations, you will get states as one of the states is current. You can use currents as a state. So you can measure the current just by measuring the voltage. Not in the loop you are working, maybe it's in the other loop as well. Because the differential equation lets us say if it is observable. There are some conditions for observable. We can see that not in this course. If you have any doubts, we can talk some other time. But if the system is observable, even if your circuit is very complex and you can only measure one voltage at the end of the circuit, and you know what are the voltage you are giving at the input end, you should be able to measure current at any of the loops by using these observers. Why? Because you are trying to estimate X. X is all the states. If you write the differential equations, you can see states are like some of the currents come in the states. Even if not, you can use some techniques to measure certain voltages, and then you can do small operations and you can get the current. So this is an example. It's like you can measure something which is not available for you to see from your output. So that's application for observers, and it's very useful because you measure something, you measure something, and you want to estimate the value of something else. It is very easy when you have everything accurate in the simulation, but it gets very difficult when you add some noises. In the real life, we always have noise. So you measure something and you want to estimate the value of some other signal. It is not always possible. So we use this technique to estimate the states of estimate the states that are not available for direct measurement. Yeah. Okay, this is a numerical example. Here we saw how we did that. So let's see the next example. In this example, what we are saying is, if we are, how do we apply this in the control systems? How do we apply observers in the control systems? So how do we do is, we saw this system, the simulation. We see this is an unstable system. See, we are giving a sine wave, a simple sine wave with bounded inputs, but we are getting very unstable system. For example, the amplitude of the sine wave is 1, but you see the output went to 40,000. So what does it mean? It is exponentially increasing. It is an unstable system. So in control systems, what we want is, we want to control, or we want to make a stable systems. So let us say, what is this example? Simulate a regulatory system applying the feedback control K is equal to this one. So what is a regulatory system? A regulatory system is where the states should go to 0 all the time. You should implement a controller such that the states go always to the 0. Where do we apply this? If you see the example of inverted pendulum, I don't know what's the name. That inverted pendulum is the technical name, but in application we use one. Let me show what is it. You call Segway or something. Okay. This one. If you see this is kind of inverted pendulum. So what it does is, we have one fixed point here, and this one is on rising above the ground. So this is very unstable. If you leave like this, it's going to fall down, right? Because it's an unstable system. It's same like this. The system itself is unstable. But what you can do to make it stable is, we have to give some kind of control algorithm we have to apply so that this always stands upright. So whatever you do to the system, it tries to maintain its position like upright. That's the zero state. So what the regulatory system wants is to make the system go to its zero state. So what does zero state means? X1 and X2 should be zero all the time. So what we are going to do, we have this system. We have to give some value to U such that the system goes stable. So what the value they are saying, use this K is equal to these values to make it a stable system. So how can we use this? Is called what they want us to apply is the state feedback. So what is the state feedback? If we know the values of states, we can use this technology. So let me show. Okay, so what we are assuming here is before going to the solution, what we are assuming here is we are measuring X cap, which we are saying which is same as X. So the estimate, or we are observing, and we are saying that our observation is very correct and we will apply it. So first let us say how we can say that this system itself is unstable. So if you see for U is equal to 0 when we are not giving any input, the eigenvalues for this matrix are, so this is a 2 by 2 matrix, so we have two eigenvalues. The eigenvalues are the plus and minus root 515 by 5. So we already know the plus term is the culprit. So the negative value is not a problem. We have a plus. So this plus part is making the system go unstable. So this is an unstable system. What we do, we apply the control algorithm. What the control algorithm says, a state feedback. What does state feedback means? We take the state and we give it as an input. So we take the state and we give as an input. So we call state feedback. So the U is equal to minus K transpose X. So why do we use minus? Because feedback is always minus. It gives stability. If you give positive, it's not working. Okay. So we apply this. So what we are saying is the X cap and X are the same. So instead of X, we want to use X cap because we don't know what is X. So all we know is X cap. And what we are assuming is X cap is equal to X. And let's apply this. So U is equal to minus K times X, which is X1, X2. If you subtract, we get like, if you multiply, we get this. And if you see the first equation, this one is 0, 20, 1, 0. This is X1, X2. It is 0, 1, and we are having U is this value, right? So if you multiply U with this value, what you get? This part is 0. This part will be same as this part. So what we have 29.6 times X1, 29.6 times X1. So the X1 is 1 now in the second row. So if you remove 1 from the 29.6, we get minus 28.6. And here it was 0. If you remove, if you subtract or if you add minus 3.6, we get minus 3.6. So this is the new dynamics. So for a system, the new dynamics, okay, I did a mistake. So we don't have this part anymore because we applied this. So the system is only this much. Okay, with this, having the system, okay, we can say what are the eigenvalues for this system. The eigenvalues are this one, minus 1.8 plus or minus, we have an imaginary term as well, plus or minus 2 root 3662 divided by 5. So here we can see the imaginary value always have positive and negative when we find eigenvalues. What we are more interested is the real part of the eigenvalues. The real part of the eigenvalues are always negative, 1.8. So minus 1.8, the negative value gives us assurance that the system is stable. So if we apply this in the VMARK, we can see that the system is stable. Okay. So we have this. This is the output and output estimated. Let us run. So as the time goes, it is going 0. So how am I measuring it is stable? By giving some initial conditions. Here I am giving initial conditions 10 and 20. With these initial conditions, I have to make sure the system is going converging to 0. That's a regulatory system. The states should go to 0, right? So the output is some linear operation of states, so it should go to 0. So whatever C value I give here, it should always go to 0. So I'm giving 0, 0. Instead of 0, 0, even if I give 1, 1, the output what I am expecting should be now 0, 1, right? Instead of this, if I give 1, 1, the value should go to 0. But okay, let us see if it works or not. See. So whatever is the C value, the output should go to 0. Okay, this is how we apply these observers. We see we are observing here and we are measuring the value of we are estimating the values of X. So what we are getting here is the X estimated value. We call it X cap. So this X cap we are multiplying with K. So that's the control algorithm we are applying. So the control algorithm is minus xk times. Here I'm using K as a row matrix. It's actually K transpose. Instead of putting a one more block, I'm directly typing the transpose of K. So here K is actually K transpose. So we have K transpose times this is the result. If you have any doubts, please ask me. Remember, this is the U. So the input to the system is K times the X minus K times the X. So this is a regulatory system. What does it mean? Whatever initial conditions you give, even if you, in the case of this scooter, whatever you push or whatever you do, it always comes back to its position, its initial state or 0 state, which is standing straight without any oscillations and without any movements. So that's the objective of controlling. That's the objective of our controller, and we can see it is working. Any questions, please ask me.
Hello, Suresh.
Yes, Kalli.
Yeah. Can we estimate in terms of time in state space? How much time it reaches to a stable condition? So
Okay. How long it takes to?
Yeah.
That depends on the L actually. So L, let us give small values and see it may take. Now let us see first how long it's taking. Let's go to the observer, Lumberg observer. You open this and see the results. It's very big value, so it's difficult for us to. No, it's controller itself, state controller. So this is the difference between outputs, which is we can say the error in estimation. It's getting zero. It's getting close to zero, like in roughly like 1 second, right?
Yes, 1 second. Yeah.
It took 1 second. So let us try to change the values of L and see what happens. The L we have 50 and 20. Let us have some other values. Let us say 500, 200, and let us see what happens. Yeah, it's less than 0.5, like 0.25. We can say that it's reaching zero, like 0.25 or 0.3. So the values of L determines us how fast, how quickly these converge. Again, the problem is if you have noise, the noise will also get a lot of gain, and the value may be not accurate. So we don't give too big value. If we want more accuracy, we give sufficient conditions. What are the sufficient conditions? We saw already. The A should be greater than 20.6 and the B should be any positive value. So by giving these values, like we can give 25 and 1, and it may take long time, but it will reach accurate value. So that's the trade-off you have to make to understand. You need quick result, or you want accurate result.
Okay, thank you, Suresh.
You're welcome. Yeah. So any other doubts? Okay, if no other doubts, let's go to the next part. Here what we want to do is we want to, before going to this is like preparation for the going to the Kalman filter. Before going to the Kalman filter, let us see how we can discretize a system. What is discretization in time? We are talking in time discretization. What does it mean is we have a continuous system. So we have a differential equations. So we want to, if we want to implement this in a digital or in some microcontroller, we can't use as such because we are not integrating it. Actually, we can use only difference. So what we want to do is we want to apply some techniques to make this come in the discrete form. So we're going to apply this. So what we're saying, if time is t, the sampling time is t, then find the discrete equivalent of this system. So we use the state space way of showing. So first we have this system we are writing in the state space. It's actually not required, but I'm writing it because it's easier for us to understand. So how do we use this? If x1 is equal to q and x2 is equal to q dot. So what we have, x dot is x1 dot q2 dot, right? What is x1 dot? Is q dot. So what is q dot? Q dot is equal to 0 times q and 1 times q dot. So we write this, the first row comes 0, 1 because the first one here is q dot. The q dot is equal to 0 times q, 1 times q dot. So this is the first row, we understand. What is the second row says? The x2 dot. So x dot in the second row is x2 dot. The x2 dot is q double dot. What is the q double dot? So this is the q double dot. We have q double dot is equal to, put all these terms on the other side. If you put all these terms on the other side, what we have? We have 25 times q negative because it's in the other side of the equation. So we get minus 25 because this is the one multiplying with the first row, which is q, and 2 times, but if it is the other side, it's minus 2 times the dq. dq is, or dq by dt is the q dot, which is this term. This is minus 2. So we're getting minus 2 here, minus 25 here. So not just the q terms, we also have another term. This is the external thing we are applying to this system. The external thing we are representing here, which is 0, 12, and u of t. So what is u of t? We are saying u of t is sine theta. And why we are putting 0? Because this one, this external force is affecting only to the q double dot, not to the q dot. So only q double dot is the second row. X dot gives us x1 dot, x2 dot. What is x2 dot is the second row, right? What is x2 dot is q double dot. So only in the q double dot equation we have this term. So for the first row we are putting 0. For the second row we are putting the 12. We are putting 12 and we are giving this sign. There is another way of doing this. It's not very big difference. Like we can, instead of giving 12 sign, 12 here and sign here, we can say 12 here. You can say 12 sign, and we can give 1 here. So whatever you like, you can do that. You can give 0, 1, and you can give u of t is 12 times sign. It depends on how you want to write it. So this is a way of writing state space equation. So once you have this, what you're going to do? We apply the forward Euler method. What is the forward Euler method says? Dx by dt is equal to dx plus 1 minus, x k plus 1 minus x of k. So if you take like sample, the time discretization, you have only available, that information is only available at certain times at every t time period. So we have at 0, and then after t seconds we have, and after 2 t seconds we have. For every t seconds you get some information. So we say like 0, 1, 2, 3. What is the 1 means? After t seconds. What is the 2 means? After 2 times t seconds. So what is saying is the dx by dt is equal to x plus 1, the next one, minus x of k. The present one should be subtracted from the future one, we can say in this case, divided by the t. T is the time period or the sampling time between two signals, two information that we receive. So how do we apply? So if we apply here, we know x1 dot, if you see here, x1 dot is, x1 is q, x1 dot is q dot, right? So x1 dot is equal to x2. So x1 dot is equal to x2. We know that from previous knowledge. And what is x1? It is applying this Euler, we can say it is x1 k of plus 1 means the future value minus the present value divided by the time t, a time period t or sampling time t. So reorganizing the stuff, we can say the future k is equal to t times x2 of k, the present value, plus x1 times x1 of the present x1 plus t times of the present x2 gives us the future x1. This is how we get, this is the first equation, you can say. So this is how we discretize. So how do we apply for the second one? x2 dot, right? So you want to find what is x2 dot. What is x2 dot? If you go to the equation to understand, the x2 dot is q double dot, which is equal to the last row of this state space. which is minus 25 times x1 minus 2 times x2 plus 12 times sine 2 pi t. So if we have that, we write here it is x2. Okay, this one. So this is minus 25 times x1 minus 2 times x2 plus 12 times the sine wave. So applying Euler method, we get x2, we can write future value minus present value divided by the sampling time. We get this is the answer. So reorganizing these things, we can say the future value of x2 is equal to the present value of x2, the present value of x1 multiplied with the time sampling time multiplied with the minus 25, and x2 present value times t times minus 2, and the present input value, which is sine 2 pi. If you see, instead of t, I'm using t times k because we get information only at regular intervals of t. So if we see in this equation, we can write the future value are depending on the present values. So the future value depends on the present values. So this is the difference equations we want. So with this, we can predict the future. If you give the present values, you can always go to the future. So it's like differential equations. You can get the full information about the system just by knowing the present values, the state. Present values means the states and the parameters. So just by knowing the states, you can say what is the system going to behave, how the system is going to behave in the future. So writing this in the transfer function way, we can write this like this: x1 the future, x2 the future is equal to, this is the transfer function. How we can see this: the x1, the coefficient is 1. For the x2, the coefficient is t, so we're inputting 1 t. For the second one, the second row, we can say the second row of this difference, we call the word, use the word difference equation. For the x1, what are the coefficients of x1? It is this one, 25 times t. Actually, it's missing. The t is missing. I should write the t here. The t is missing. 25 times t. And what is x2? What are the coefficients of x2? It is 1 and minus 2t. So 1 minus 2t. Okay. And this is x1, x2 matrix form. And the external force which we are applying here is 12t times sine of this. So we are putting this. So let us simulate a system and see how we can implement this in the real life. So if we go here, so this is the continuous model, right? So A, B, C, T. So D is 0, so we don't need. So C is also not required. The C is something like we want to observe. What you want to observe is the second one, Q dot. So we are putting like this. So the most important thing is A and B. So what are the A and B here? For the original system or the continuous time system. The A is 0, 1 and minus 25, 2. 0, 1, minus 25, minus 2. And B is 0 and 12. So with this is the system, and it is going to run, but if you want to see the result, we have to give something to see, something to come out of the system. So what I'm giving, 0, 1. What is 0, 1 means? We are giving 0 to this and 1 to this. What we are measuring is the velocity signal, the Q dot. So we are measuring the Q dot, and we will measure the Q dot for this, for this system as well. So let us implement the discrete time model. So how do we implement the discrete time model? So let us see this equation and this equation, and we will implement these two. So first implement this equation. How does it implements the future of x1? So let us see. This is the x1. So here we have, this is the past and this is the future. So the here x1 of k, x1 of k minus 2. I'm using this representation. I'm using different representation so that you can be more easily understanding, or we can say it will be more complete to understand. So if we have this difference equation, instead of k, if you use k minus 1, what happens? K minus 1, if you apply here, k is equal to k minus 1. So what we can say? So this will become k, and this will become k minus 1, k minus 1. So what we can say, the present value depends on the past values, right? So it's the same way of saying like the future value depends on the present and past values, or we can say the present value depends only on the past values. So it's a causal system. We can say, it's a different way of saying, but it's the same thing. So let us say the present value is this one, and it is equal to, we have to implement this. So it is t times the previous value, t times, where is it? T times the previous value of x2. So if this is the x2, so we take this t times and x1 directly. So we add this, adding of these two terms give us the future value of x1. So how do we get the x2? x2 is sum of 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 terms. So we have to add 4 terms here. So why am I adding 3? Let us see. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so instead of 4 terms, we are adding 1 minus 2t as 1 term. So like 1 minus 2t is here. 1 minus 2t times x2. What is the other term? x1 times 25t. x1 times 25t we have here. What is the other term? The other term is this u. The u is the input whatever we are giving. So I'm giving input here, so I'm taking from this. Okay. And then there is another way of, we can see it is getting very complicated to implement. So we can use as vectors. So how do we use the vectors? We just give some initial conditions to this as 0, 1, 0, 0. So instead of integrating one single value, we are integrating both at the same time. So we can use the ABCD constants here. So the feedback, the loop we are having is AD, right? So this is the AD. So what it is? 1t minus 25, 1 minus 2t. So let us see here. Let us see how I have defined is 1t minus 25t, 1 minus 2t. So this is the value we are getting. And what is the b? The b is 0 and 12 times t. We are getting this. So we are implementing this system like this. So it is, value is sum of 2 terms. One is this term, another is this term. This term is multiplying with x. So a is multiplying with x itself. The b is multiplying with the input. So what is the output we want to measure? We want to measure something to compare. To comparing, what we are using is the c, which is here we have c, which is just the velocity, the q dot. So here this is the x1, so we are taking x2. So we are measuring these three. We are not, see here we are not measuring x1, we are measuring x2 because x2 represents the q dot. So all these three should be the same. So if we run, so we see all these three are the same values. So the continuous, see the continuous is having small error. It is because of the discretization we are doing. But we can see all three are the same. So we see all three are the same. So this is how we discretize our continuous model. If you have continuous model and you know ABCD values, you can discretize. So what do I mean by ABCD values? Like we write in transfer function. The main important thing is A, B, and also C if you want to observe, and we can implement it. Is it clear how we are implementing discrete time model in digital systems by discretization? Please tell me if you have any doubts.
So difficulty in hello, Suresh, going for vector model. Can you explain once again? Is it a problem of doing individual, estimation, as you said earlier? So simultaneously we can do something vector forms, right?
What I'm saying is, we can see this system looks very complicated. It's all it does is some linear matrix operations. So if we write here in this, it's more easy for us to understand, and it's easy for us to implement in the systems. So what I'm saying is, instead of implementing two different, like this one and this one separately, what we are doing is we are clubbing these two in beautiful matrix format, and we say this is AD and BD, this one, and we are implementing here. So now we can see the system is very easy for us to understand. It's there is no computational advantage. It's only for the human. We feel it will easy for us to understand. Computationally, both are the same because we are doing the same operations. Here we are doing element wise, and here we are doing matricial matrix operation. But the computation is the same. And also it's easy for us to understand. We give one delay, it's always like the same way we use for the continuous system as well. So it's more familiar for it's like one technique you learn and you will apply for all the times. So it's easy for us to understand in the future as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Suresh.
Yeah, welcome. So why are we learning it now? Because we want to implement the Kalman filter. The Kalman filter we can implement in the continuous time, but it is not really useful because the Kalman filter in the real life we always apply to the real systems using some computers. So we know computers use discretization, it discretize. So what we get is anyhow the discretized version. So it's better to implement the discretized version. Means broken in times. So let's see what is the Kalman filter says. The Kalman filter is this one. This is the algorithm for Kalman filter. So it is actually 6-step process. Or if you want, you can break this step again into two more extra steps, like 8-step process. So we break it into 6-step process. And here we have two stages. One is predict and then update. So what we do is we use this part to predict the values of X, the states, and then we update, or some people or some books call them as correction. This is a prediction and this is called correction. So we predict some value and we update it with a more accurate result. So let us implement this on one system. But before that, let us see how it is working, how the algorithm looks. So it says minus, we are using this symbol, this terminology or this symbols. The minus represents the prediction part and the plus represents the correction part or the updated part. So what do we have here? This one, the prediction, this is a differential equation. If you see, the difference equation, this depends on the past values. The present value depends on the past values. And this one is also a difference equation. This depends on the past values. And if you see here, A, B, A, these A are ABCDs that of our system, and C is also a part of our actual continuous time system, the ABCDs. So, but instead of using A, B, C, D, we have to use the discretized version. That's why we are learning how to discretize the system. So here when we say A, it is not the A that we are having. Let me say that again. So A we are having is 0, 1 minus 25t. But in the Kalman filter, when we go for the same system, the A is not that. The A is going to be this 1t minus 25, 1 minus 2t. So the A in the Kalman filter we are going to use is the discretized version of the continuous model. If you are trying to observe a continuous model, we have to discretize and then we have to say those are A, B, C, D's. And we are using A, B and C. So this is a system and this is the P. It's the P here is similar to the least square method we are using. The algorithm is also similar. But anyway, we have the updated version. Here we don't see any difference equation. We see some static equations. The Z is this static multiplication. The K we call Kalman gain. It is also some multiplication and like this. See? So if you have any doubts, please ask me. Okay, here I forgot to tell what is the Q. If you see the Q is not having any differential equation. Q is the noise, the variance matrix of the noise. So we have to tell to this algorithm what is the noise we are expecting. So this, if we don't know the noise, we have to use some techniques to understand what is the noise in our system, and we have to give as one of the inputs to this algorithm. And also we see R here. R is also a noise. This Q represents the noise in the input we are giving. We give certain input, but by the time the system receives that input, it is mixed with some noise. So that is Q. And while measuring, we measure some value, and after measuring, we are not measuring the exact value. We are measuring with some noise. The variance of that noise is R. And in the both cases, we are considering the noise is having 0 as the mean value, 0 mean value, and the variance is R in this case of measurement. In the case of giving, we are giving with certain noise. So the noise is Q, the variance is Q. The Q is actually not one value, it is a variance matrix. So you want to say how much you are giving to the each state. So in this case, we are going to see one case with only noise to the state, second state, the Q dot. So we have only one. I will explain this when I show the simulation. So the example says implement the Kalman filter to observe the states for this system. The system is a continuous system with a second order differential equation. Okay, so first let us see how do we calculate variance in white noise. There is a formula B minus A divided by 12. The B and A are the limits, upper and lower limits. So if the noise is between 5 and minus 5, the 5 and minus 5 will be A and B. So what is the variance? The variance is 2A divided by 12, because we are saying A and B are same but the opposite, because the mean is 0. So if it should be like minus 5, 5 or 2 minus 2 or something between some ranges, right? So we are taking this, and this is the noise variance. We are using this formula to calculate the variance in our implementation. Let us see first how I am implementing this. Then we we'll see the values one by one. So first let me show one something I have version, then I will show a little complex version. So we have this in two stages, right? The first stage is predict. So let us see how the predict stage works. This is in predict stage we have two. The first one is predict the state estimate. Predict the state estimate is this equation. So x of k is equal to A times x of k minus 1 means the previous value of this plus b of u. So b times u. So if you see, I'm using b d. D means discretized version of the actual system, and a is the discretized version of the actual a. So b we are getting input from here. The a we are getting input from this stage. You see, updated state estimate. We go to the updated state estimate. Updated state estimate, the output we are taking and feeding to this one. You see, so we are getting here. So what is this one? Predicted error covariance. So this is another difference equation. So we have this one, and this is of two terms. This is the first term, this is the second term. So what is the first term says? A times P and what is this P? It is P plus, right? The P plus is here. So it is updated error covariance. So let's go to this block, updated error covariance. This one, right? This one is here, updated error covariance. I'm bringing this signal from this block and I'm feeding to here, multiplying with A. So I get this A times this one. So we see here. So first A is multiplied, then the signal. So we're getting A times this one. So we have to multiply with A transpose. So we have A, we're putting it as transpose and we are multiplying it. And then we do multiplication of these two. So we are multiplying these two. And then we are feeding this to the this summation. This is the first term. The second term is the Q. So the Q, what is the Q? So here we see the Q is, let me go here and show. The Q is the variance matrix. What is the variance? Here we see the variance is given by this formula, right? Actually it is a squared. We have to square it. I forgot to put the square here. This is a square. So this is 2a squared divided by 12. So applying this, but this should be a matrix because we have to say how much we are giving to the state 1, stage 2, state 1, state 2, and what is the covariance between both errors we have to stay here. But in our case, we don't have this matrix. We have only like this. We have this. We have just like this. We don't have any other noise. We have noise only to the second. So you should be writing like this. So the Kalman filter you have to understand more in deep. You have to implement by yourself to understand all the concepts. So I'm giving here, but I recommend you to implement by yourself to understand more clearly the step by step. But if you have any doubts, you can ask me. Okay, so we have seen implementation of these two. So how do we implement the other one? These are very simple. These are, for example, measurement residual is sum of two terms, yk and this one. So what is yk is the output we are receiving, and the other one is the c times the x minus. If you see, x minus is coming from this one. So we take this and we are multiplying with C and we are giving this. So we are getting the output, this Z, okay. And then Kalman gain. So we are having this thing to implement. How are we implementing this? In this block. So what we need are, let us first find this part, how we are doing this. R plus C and C times Pk minus. If you see Pk minus, it should be coming from this. We receive from here the minus. This is the predict block. The minus is the predict block. We receive here the signal. This is a P. So what we are having? C times P K C transpose. So we are doing these multiplications here. So with this we are adding with the R, and then all we have to do inverse. We have to apply the inverse matrix. With inverse matrix we get this, and then we have to multiply it with this part. So you have to multiply with this part again. This is P. If you can see, it is also negative, so negative this one. So we are multiplying it, and we get the Kalman gain. The Kalman gain, the KK is this one. What remaining is this one, the updated state estimate. The updated state estimate is sum of two terms. The first term is then -1. So we are receiving directly from the predict, this one, this first block. So we take them from the first block, this one. So what is the other one? The other one is Kalman gain times the output of this block. So we have Kalman gain here. We take the Kalman gain times the output of this block, and we are adding these two to get the state estimate. This is the one, our output. We want to estimate the state. So we are getting the state estimate in this block. Okay, so we get this state block, state estimate, and then we have to make this block, implement this block, the last block. It says I is the identity matrix minus, in this case our identity matrix should be 2 by 2 matrix. So it is a 2 by 2 identity matrix we are using, minus C times the Kalman gain. So C times the Kalman gain we are getting from the previous block, and from there what we are getting, multiply with the P minus. Remember the minus comes from, we know the minus comes from this predict block. So this is the P minus we are receiving, and we are using here. So all these things gives us the output T. So that's how we implement the Kalman filter. Let us see the output. So what we are getting is some state estimates. So this is the actual system. So what is the actual system we have? We are using the same system. We are putting W, which indicates the noise. So you give some beautiful input like sine wave, but the system is receiving sine wave and also some noise. So let us run this and see if we can estimate it or not properly. So let us run. See, this is the actual value, the one is the actual value, but with all the noise we have, we are estimating this value. So this is the, so we can say that the Kalman filter is working, but in the next simulation I will show more in clear. So what is the advantage of how beautiful it is. So now you can say that Kalman filter is working. In the next example or next one, let me show more in detail. So I'm adding more details so that you can understand more part. So in this we are not going to look into the algorithm. It is the same algorithm implemented, but here let us see into this part. So instead of C, we are giving 1001. So it says the output is going to be two values. The one value is the first state. The second value is the second state. So what we are observing is we are observing the output, right? Let us see where is the output. So this is the output, and we are adding some noise, and this is the one which is available to us. So if you see what is available to us, if we run, this is the signal which is available to us. So if we estimate, if you see, if we compare this with the estimate, this is, we can say output and estimated output, or we can say corrected output. So let us say it's like, let me show this. in this graph, what we are seeing is output and also the one what we are doing after the Kalman filter. So if you see, we are receiving an output. Let me wait for this to finish. Okay. So if you see, we are receiving this. This is the output. I mean, this is the one we can measure. But if we apply the Kalman filter, we will receive this signal. You can see this signal is much beautiful and more accurate representation as compared to this noisy output. So what we can say is, instead of applying a simple low pass filter to reduce the noise, it is more useful for us to apply Kalman filter, because if you apply a low pass filter, there will be a phase difference and you are adding some dynamics to it. But if you apply Kalman filter, even if it is noisy output, you can get a lot of information from it. You see, with the noisy output, you are receiving a beautiful, a much better output. This is the advantage of Kalman filter. So you are receiving this output. What people or what we do, engineers in general, is we put a low pass filter to make it look beautiful. But if we apply Kalman filter, it looks much beautiful and it is not adding any dynamics to it. We are observing it. But what is the problem? We have to say what are the ABCD values to the Kalman filter, the ABC values, and which are not always available. So there is another option we can have. There is another algorithm called extended Kalman filter. In that, if some of the parameters are missing, it will calculate automatically and it tries to update the system. So this is what I wanted to show for today. The implementation of Kalman filter, which is very, very useful in almost all fields. We use Kalman filter to reduce the noise, ranging from image processing, the satellites, or biology. Everywhere we need some processing. We don't apply low pass filters. We apply Kalman filters or extended Kalman filters. Yeah, that's I want to say today. If you have any doubts, please ask me. I see the Kalman filter is a little complicated, but it is worth implementing. I recommend you to implement this by following this book, by following these notes, and I'm sure you can do it. If you are already doing, if you have any doubts, please ask me.
So the worthiness of this Kalman filter can be understood only with respect to the smoothness of the curve, Suresh, or is there any other parameters?
The parameters is the output. We have to see the output. Where is the output? Let me see the algorithm. Predicted, estimate, and the measurement residue. So if you see the Z, it says the difference between the output, actual output, minus the one we are estimating, right? So this should go to 0. That gives us assurance that it is good. So let us see where is this value. This is the first block of this one, the output of this one. Okay, so just estimate. I think this should go to 0. Only then we can say it is a beautiful or it is converging properly. So let us draw this and see if it is going to 0 or something very 0. See? So it is near to 0. So we can say it is. So if it is getting, if two filters are implemented and one is having very close to 0 and another one is little far from 0, so we can say the one closer to the 0 is the better implemented version. We always have noise because we are injecting a lot of noise into this to observe this. So we will have the noise, but it should be always to the 0. It should not shoot out like going to some infinity or something like that. It should be always near to the 0. So that's how we make sure that it is working properly. The algorithm is working properly.
Okay. So in practical scenario, if you are using hardware,
Mhm.
some practical sensor signals,
Yeah.
can we directly like incorporate this algorithm to the input of that sensor so that we
Yeah.
can get a more stable sensor output to the microcontroller?
Yes. Yeah, we can do that. But here then we have to make sure that you should know the ABCD values of the sensor. That's the tricky part in this implementation.
Hmm.
But there are extended Kalman filter. You can implement those. The algorithm will be little more complicated than this, but you will get better results. It is very useful when you are using sensors at continuously monitoring something. But if you want to monitor something like temperature, this is not worth using because the temperature changes are very slow, right? So, so the dynamics won't be changing this quickly. So you don't need to use Kalman filter. You can use any filter, any low pass filter or anything. It is sufficient. But if you want very accurate and perfect result for uh, your your project, it is recommended to use Kalman filter instead of any other filter.
Okay. So where ABCD parameter, that state space parameters changes dynamically, I think this is adjustable. I hope.
No, it is here. It is not saying they are changing, but the problem is you don't know for if you give any system, you can write the model, but you don't know what are the ABCD constant for your system. For example, if you buy a sensor, the input is some, let us say the sensor is a temperature sensor. The input is the temperature, the output is the voltage you are measuring.
Yes.
You have some dynamics, you have some transfer function or a state space equation, but you don't know the parameters there. You have to estimate the parameters first. I mean, identify the parameters first, then you can apply the Kalman filter.
So like at that case, do we need to start like randomly selecting AB and then like a noise as well as AB and Q?
For that, you have to use the extended Kalman filter. It will make sure that even if your ABCDs are not correct, it will update the ABCD values as well. In that case, even if your system is slightly time variant, I mean the ABCD are varying with the time, even then it will try to cope up with the results. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, Suresh. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good insight. Thank you.
Yeah. Welcome.
So, dear participants, if you have any further queries related to the today's session, cardinal filter and other topics, and you can ask the resource person. If not, we will close the session by today. Any doubts? The material will be like posted in a short moment. Please do refer to the recorded sessions as well as the content we are uploading in the chat box for your practice. So I think any queries? No, then.
Okay.
So can you give a brief about the tomorrow session, Suresh?
Okay. Tomorrow, let us implement adaptive control. In that, what we say is even if some of the parameters are changing over the time, we can make sure that the system is always updated and the controlled. So we have two types of adaptive control. One is to follow the input we are giving. So whatever trajectory we give, the output follows that trajectory. Then another one is the output of our system follows the trajectory of the another system which we want it to behave like. So for example, if you want the system should be behave like certain what we call certain model which we already have in your mind. So you want the output should be same as the output of the other model. So what you will do, you will apply the control algorithm. That's what we call MRAC, model reference adaptive control. With reference to that model, uh, our output will be the same as the output of the other. So we will see all these things tomorrow and day after tomorrow, the last two
Sure,
sessions.
sure, sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Suresh Kumar Gadi, and for the wonderful session today. So we'll meet tomorrow. Have a good day, Suresh, and thank you all participants for your participation for today's session. And we have 2 more days. So if you have any queries related to the Umaix software or the concept we discussed so far, and you can always come with queries, and always happy to today.
Thank you, Kalyan. Good night, all of you. Have a nice day.
Good night.
Bye. Bye.